You ready with your kazoo?
I don't know.
You have to do it.
Does it go first or do you go first?
Uh, we're live.
Ah,
We're live already, Sage. Good to see you.
well,
Are you
good to
ready
see
with your
you.
kazoo now?
Yeah, maybe.
Give us an intro.
I'll use a different instrument next time.
Oh, it's great. Love this intro. Welcome to this week's episode of the Wagtail Review, our very informal podcast. Um, Sage, it's good to have you here.
Well, it's good to see you.
Yeah, today we have special topic I prepared, so hopefully you still feel that way once
Oh,
we've been through it.
well, I mean, every topic here is special.
Oh, that's so kind. Um, I thought it would be nice to do more of a deep dive into something I've worked on recently, which is llms.txt in the Wagtail docs. And the reason that I'm feeling ambivalent about it is it definitely has the promise to be very helpful, but also to mean that people look at our docs less and less and spend more time with their AI robots instead. So it's bittersweet. How do you
Oh,
feel about llms.txt? Have you used it yet?
I personally haven't, but I've seen other people using it, and it does seem to improve the results that you're getting out of the LLMs. So, if it means less hallucination from AI, I think it would be good. But also, I saw the news from Tailwind because where they experienced like a massive drop in the traffic to their docks that ended up in them having layoffs. So that's really sad.
Yeah, yeah. I remember seeing this pull request opened for so long because well, we use Tailwind, really happy with it, and they have a very specific triage process for feature requests where most things are discussed in GitHub discussions first and only brought to issues and PRs once they are kind of really ready. So you could really tell someone something was going on with it taking so long. And yeah, I mean, it's a big stress test at the very least for open source. Um, the change in how people engage with those projects, engage with the docs. Um, yeah, I don't know if we see similar shifts for Wagtail because our analytics are like pretty basic. Like we have things that are not too invasive, basically. So we don't necessarily have access to analytics data over years and years. And I do expect something similar is happening, though. Is it a problem for us?
Um, well, given that we don't provide Wagtail as a Tailwind is not really provided as a paid product, but they do sell Tailwind UI. But we don't have something similar with Wagtail. Um, so I guess we're in a different position.
Yeah, yeah, we don't rely on income from the vast majority of our users. We do hope to sustain development with sponsorships, but it's not the kind of sponsorships you tend to get by people looking at documentation. It's more relationships and needs of big organizations.
Yep.
Um, yeah, hopefully it works out for them. Hopefully they find a ways to change their business model. Um, for us, I think it's quite a promising format because we do want our docs to be as accessible as possible, which is
And
why we've invested into it. Yeah.
yeah, and we want Wagtail to be as easy to use as possible.
Yep. Yep. Um, so yeah, we worked on this in the last latest release of Wagtail, which is due to come out in about 10 days now. And just because those files are tied to the documentation, they're actually already available and ready for people to test. So for the docs, the developer docs, sorry, you just have to know where to find the URL to those files so you can access them. Um, or I think I added a note in the support page of the docs, which I'm not sure is the right place, but at least there's something written somewhere that we can point people to. And for the guide website, I built this new copy page. It's kind of a not an established pattern, but emerging pattern across lots of documentation websites where there's links to all the different versions. I don't know if you've seen this much on like AI docs sites where there's like ask Claude about this in the
Oh yeah, like
UI.
a button on the documentation. Yeah, I think I've seen that. Yeah, sometimes it's also integrated in the search bar. So instead of being a regular search, it also works as a prompt input.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's interesting you bring up search because to me that's kind of one of the killer features of those llms.txt is just AI chats um, are quite good if you give them the right information at searching through it and finding you the right answer compared to our site search, which is really basic. Um, yeah, so we did that because useful, and not gonna read through my whole blog post, but I guess a big hope for us is that it's encouraging people to use open source models and smaller models rather than focus on the one or two or three top providers. Um, we, I think, know that Claude and Gemini and so on, they crawl the site's HTML on a daily basis. They have no problem extracting the contents from the HTML. But if we take some time to make the content more readily available, it makes it much easier to use with LMs that do not crawl your content, like a local model or an open source model hosted in an independent provider. So I thought we'd try that together today. If that sounds fun to you,
Yep,
and see what happens.
let's see it.
Yeah. Uh, I thought I'd give a quick plug to one of those providers first, which is the one we use for our AI experimentations in Wagtail Core. Um, I think there's like a lot of such providers out there. There's not necessarily um, this one being like much better than the others, but it's definitely like exactly the right fit for us. So Scaleway, they are based in Europe. Their data center for their AI services is in Paris, and we selected them as a provider because the open source models they provide, they're the right fit for us in terms of capabilities and I guess ethos, values alignment. Um, and the data center being in Paris, it's close to as low carbon footprint as it gets, which really matters for us. Um, so yeah, today I thought we could try Mistral Small, which is a 24 billion parameter model, context window of 128K. For context, the guide website docs, like the full docs, that's somewhere between 25 and 50,000 tokens. And the developer docs, that's about 10 times that. So 250 to 500,000 tokens. Um, I don't know if you spent much time in your developer life, Sage, dealing with different context windows and optimizing token counts to fit and so on.
Not that much, but I do know that once you start having a long history of prompts, it becomes less reliable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think when you reach the top of the context window, it already starts to suffer before you're at the threshold, and then when you're after, it loses the context and it really tanks even more. Um, yeah, so I guess that's one of the big things we wanted to do here is making sure that our LM files fit in smaller context windows, um, and potentially producing multiple versions of the file, so they're more likely to fit in those windows. Um, yeah, and 128K, that's kind of higher end for open source models that are kind of in smaller parameter sizes. Then there are bigger models that have much bigger context windows. So Qwen 3 here, 235 billion parameters. This active 22B, so that means that when it's actually answering your questions, it has an architecture where there's only a smaller subset of those 235 that are actually being used. That's about double the context window. Anyway, let's see how it goes. I have a specific system for this in place, and I haven't demoed this to anyone yet. So it's a bit of just hoping that it works well enough to be understandable. I'm gonna switch my screen sharing to another tool, which is my IDE of the moment. I'm in Cursor, but really any other IDE could do just as well. I'm gonna make sure we have as much space as possible. How do I close this side? Yeah. And we're gonna open PromptFoo. Have you heard
Oh,
of PromptFoo, Sage?
I have heard of it, never used it though.
Okay. I think we'll do the deep dive approach where I just give you a demo and we see how it works.
Okay.
And maybe we look at the docs later. So PromptFoo is a tool to make evals. I don't know what the proper term is. Eval suits, evaluations. I've heard all those things. I guess if I have to summarize, it's automated tests for AI prompts and AI agents, um, which, somewhat like unit or integration tests, but the assertions you can make have to be a bit more lenient to AI outputs being so variable. So top of the file here, I give it which prompts I'd like it to use when answering my questions. Then providers, just which AI models, which AI systems we're using. So in this case, we have three providers. Um, the Mistral model I just mentioned in Scaleway, bigger GPT OSS 120B model, and then the heavyweight Claude Opus 4.5. And I think the goal here is just to be clear is we expect we can, with the right prompting, with the right context management, get the same or better results with Mistral than you can get with a super heavyweight model like Claude Opus. Um, yeah, and once you have that set up, you give it different questions to answer. So here there's three variables, which are the three different files, and those are reused across all test scenarios. And then in the different test scenarios, there's this user message. There's going to be the actual question that we ask the AI. So how do I create a new page? Kind of the bare bones. This is the minimum requirement for most Wagtail users. They want to know how you do that. Um, Unsupported feature. So how do I recover a document I just deleted? It's a good test of how much the AI is going to pretend to know more than it should or to do things that are impossible. Yeah, and then the assertions. Maybe I'll explain this with the results. So let's view the results of an eval I ran previously. And yeah, I switched to cursor because it has this browser window in the IDE feature that I thought could be quite nice for us. Um, yeah, so here we're inside the results view after the checks have run. And the idea here is that we'll be able to interpret which AI models did well with this or that configuration of the prompting. I think just to save a bit of space, I might, how do I do that again? There's a way to hide the variables that I forgot about. Just make them smaller like that.
Columns at the top, maybe one of those options.
Where do you see that?
Um, Up from where? So columns, yeah.
Thank you. Table settings and columns, exactly. They're always side by side. And yeah, um, so we'll just look at the question and then we'll look at the scenarios in the output. So how do I create a new page? I have a very small model here that I had been using in the past on my own computer. Then we have Mistral, small, GPT OSS, and then Opus. Um, so we can see if I scroll like quickly, top to bottom on the right-hand side, Opus passes all of our checks. So it seems like it's doing really well. And basically our job, if we want to optimize for smaller models, is to look at why the smaller ones are failing and then make sure to adjust. So I'll give you an example. If we look at the GPT OSS answer for this question, here my assertion was based on a regular expression. So it looks like the contents have either this or that in them. And so what I try to do here is make sure that when the AI answers the questions, it only refers to the real content of the real user guide, doesn't make up URLs on the spots. And if it does, that's bad.
Hmm.
So you would expect that with more refined prompting, we could get this out. Like maybe we could prompt it to the list of URLs and say like, your answer better be mentioning one of these and nothing else. Um, yeah, if we look at another failure from another smaller model, so this was a regular expression test. This one is called, it's a form of LM grading. So here you give um, your the answer from the AI to another LLM, and you ask it to judge whether it meets this or that criteria. So here, what I said is it's really important that when we tell people how Wagtail supports image resizing, that we focus on the features in the CMS rather than what developers can do. Um, so here, I think my prompt was saying like, oh, it's important to avoid mentioning this as a dev, make sure that in the CMS it's clear it's only about setting focal areas. Supports image resizing, generates multiple versions of it at different sizes. That's kind of correct. How to set the focal area of an image, which can affect how the image is cropped and displayed. I mean, that looks like a fine answer to me up to this point. So here maybe there is a case for our tests to be more lenient for this scenario. And yeah, this here is definitely the type of like developer focused information that's for a dev that's really important. For CMS users, they don't really need to know about this. Do you want to try it with a new question, Sage?
Oh, are we also testing with the developer documentation or?
We can do. I will need to adjust my setup a fair bit, but we could try. Give me CMS user question first, and then I'll do the setup for a developer question.
Okay. Um, Maybe how do I hide a column in the page explorer or image listing or one of those, I guess.
You can do that?
Well, we want to see whether the LLM makes it up.
Okay. So, uh, I'll go to my list of tests then, and at the bottom, think description, we can just write Sage's trick question. So how do I add a column?
Add or hide.
In the page explorer, you were saying?
Yep.
How did you want to test that it answers correctly?
Oh, that's a good question.
So we can do like,
Cannot.
yeah, we can not I'm not the biggest fan of using LLMs to make sure that LLMs don't LLM, but we can try as as a starter point.
Does it
Uh,
give you the output as well so that you can check? I think right. So if you have like an assertion whether the output contains the word cannot or can't,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, then you can, but you can verify the actual output that it gives you.
yeah.
Okay.
This is not supported. Let's start like that, and yeah, you know, the types of assertions that I like to write is like, oh, it contains this very specific word. Like for example, how do I create a new page? Oh, it should contain add, child page, page type, stuff like that. Um, but we can start simple like this, see what answers come through and adjust later.
By the way, I'm
Um,
not sure the wordings that we use in the user guide. Is it explorer or is it listings? Okay.
um, yeah, there's definitely a good question there, which is that when you do this, you're testing many things. You're testing the AI's ability to answer the docs. You're testing your docs content as well, and you're also testing your prompting. So you definitely need to look at the results carefully and be sure to, I guess, empower what your findings, map them to the corresponding place to improve. Um, anyway, yeah, so we've created our scenario. I might just comment out the other ones so there's a bit less um, noise in the output. Um,
Oh, that's a funny typo.
prompt fool. Yeah, so it's derived 6 test cases from your one question because um, there is 3 different AI models and 2 different prompts. So it's going to try to answer this with my smaller abridged file with the full llms.txt file across all 3 models. Passed 2, 4 failed. Interesting.
Mm.
So we'll go back to our evals results and probably using it wrong, but um, oh yeah, okay. Did I make a mistake with the configuration there? I don't know why the slash isn't coming through.
Have you saved?
Is it just that?
I don't know, maybe.
Am I the fool?
What?
I am the fool. Let's give it another chance.
Do you
Ah,
think it
okay.
interprets the slash and question mark as something like a slash command or something?
No, I think it's just me mistyping.
Okay.
Um, I forgot to also remove the default assertions I had for my other tests. Um, so I think it's worth looking at this to be clear that it's what we want. Um, so I had 3 default assertions. One, it should contain URLs to the guide websites. So this is because I expect the AI in the prompts I've set, I expect it to always cite its sources. Two, the not regex one I mentioned, and three, should provide a clear step-by-step guide or a clear summary. So I think here we should also amend and say or explain if something is not possible. And then we'll make sure that our actual failures match this scenario a bit more. I only had one trick gotcha question so far in my test suite. Okay, three passed, three failed. That feels like we'll be able to interpret a bit more. So, Claude Opus doing well with both types of files we provide. ChatGPT OSS has one fail and Mistral has two fails. Okay, so Mistral with the abridged file says there's a column button. The column configuration feature in the pages section.
Click the columns button in the top right corner of the page listing next to the search bar.
Save as default, optional. I mean, this is lovely, but this is completely false. I'm surprised that it would lie to your face so much, even though it clearly is citing the right pages. Okay, so here, complete bullshit. Conclusion, we should refine our prompts so it's less risk to hallucinate. Next one with the full file. Yeah, same.
But what if you were a user and you ask it a question like, you said we should improve the prompt so that it doesn't give you incorrect results.
Yeah.
But as a user, you would just write the prompt, right? You don't.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think if we expect there is like common misconceptions, we can address them in the docs. So for example, for documents, deleted documents recovery, our docs explicitly say like this thing is not supported because it's quite crucial to know that you don't have this. So yeah, we have like option one, update the docs to dispel common issues. Option two, can I just open any URL in here or is it gonna, I don't use browsers integrated into IDEs too much. Yeah, I
Oh.
can, okay. Um, so this copy prompt thing that I have is my attempt at encouraging people to use like a good default of a prompt, if that makes sense. So the idea here would be that you could copy paste this into your AI of choice, and it would have this default set of instructions that guide the AI towards hallucinating yes. So here it says, when a topic is not covered in or falls outside the CMS user scope, clearly state this without speculation or developer level details. Uh, if we look at the results we got, this is definitely speculation to be polite, and this is definitely developer details. So Mistral definitely failing. Need better prompts, and hopefully we can get it to work better. ChatGPT OSS, a lot of thinking. Where does the thinking stop? Okay, I think that's probably right about where we need to be looking. Hey Baptiste,
Hello.
welcome to our panel discussion. We're looking at the llms.txt format and testing the AIs with trick questions to see if they're following our instructions to answer questions about Wagtail based on the docs.
That looks fun.
Change requires developer to modify the project's Django admin configuration or create a custom view. Uh, close, but no cigar. Use the existing columns to sort or filter pages. Click the column header to sort. Use bulk action checkboxes. Yeah, well, there's definitely some elements that are correct in here, but yeah, again, probably room for the prompt to direct the AI more, and for the prompt to make sure that we refer to the Wagtail admin only. Let's look at Claude. What does Claude think? It's not something that CMS users can configure directly. What users can do? That all seems very correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting that it does this. So there's there's a big decision factor when we create those files. I mentioned earlier that it's important that they are optimized to be smaller to fit in the context that smaller open source models have, so that hopefully we get good results with less energy use. And release notes, it's something that's append only and that kind of loses relevance over time. So it's always very interesting to me to see which questions might only be answerable with the contents of the release notes. So I mentioned to you like having this abridged and the full file. One difference is the abridged one. I removed all the release notes to have a smaller file. And I think this is even more important if you look at llms.txt versions of developer docs, that you decide, okay, do the release notes from Wagtail versions 5 years ago, are they like something that we expect people to be using to answer their Wagtail questions? Probably not, right? Do you look at release notes from like that while ago to check?
Well, I personally don't, but I can imagine if you're upgrading a really old Wagtail instance, you might want to have
Yeah,
answers.
I've also in the past, I think when searching for, I can't remember what, but the release notes do pop up. Uh, and it has been useful. I think Wagtail's release notes are quite good. There's obviously a lot of effort going to them. And I think sometimes it would help me understanding how a feature was used, because oftentimes the release note explains how to change from the old way of doing things to the new way. And so as a side effect, they do explain how to use things. And sometimes it explains them in a slightly different way than the reference documentation does, and it's enough to give like I don't know, something clicks. In contrast, I think Django release notes often appear very high in the search. I think we've never figured out how to deprioritize them, and for me, they're rarely useful. The release notes for Django are really good at telling you what has changed, but I don't find any use for them for anything else. Whereas Wagtail, I think you can get some good information out of them. I don't know if that's a positive or a negative. I feel that you know your release notes, I don't think should explain things that is not explained by the documentation, but I don't know.
Yeah, we do have a problem of features being documented in release notes because we never actually documented the feature, but sometimes we go out of our way. We make sure to ease the upgrade path for people who do customize things. So we end up writing undocumented things in the upgrade considerations of our release notes. So yeah.
yeah. It's a super important design goal for us to avoid documentation that's only in the release notes and nowhere else. So I think I'll create an issue for us to actually write it somewhere. Um, I feel like, the release notes definitely meant to be a point in time, most useful at the point of the release and at the point of you considering the upgrade. But hopefully, if your site has been upgraded, you should never need to look at them ever again after. Baptiste, do you want to try and trick the AI with a particularly devious question that might or might not be explained in our documentation?
Oh, I'll try to. I'm just coming off of a project where I did some quite heavy customization of the admin, where I had to give up a few times and go and read the source code rather than refer to the documentation. But what did I want to change that was hard? Ooh, I wanted to change the columns that were listed in a chooser. I had a custom chooser and I wanted to, um,
So as a developer,
yeah,
okay, let's see if we can do that, and that'll be fun for us to do together. So this configuration for this piece of software right now, it's set up specifically for the CMS user docs, but I don't think it will take us too much work to do a version of this that is for developer docs. And it'll get me a chance to teach you all how to do this, which I think, definitely people who drink the AI Kool-Aid did benefit from actually having those kinds of automated tests. Sorry, not sorry. Um, what do you think would be a good prompt for the AI to explore the docs? Do you have a good sense of how to prompt for this kind of information?
I don't.
Sage, do you have any?
I don't know. I don't usually begin my prompts with like "you are a helpful AI." I don't usually do that. I just ask the question. I assume it's already well. Yeah, I assume with newer models, it can understand questions just fine without having to have the intro like that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I think you're right, but I think it's also, definitely where you will get much better results from smaller models if you spend time to more carefully prompt it to answer in this or that way. Um, but like flagship models, definitely much less relevant. Um, okay, so we'll try to reuse one of my existing support prompts, and I will adjust it a bit for the dev context. You're a professional support helper for Wagtail CMS developers. Use the llms.txt, llms full.txt files as the authority documentation, help users look at the information within, concise factual explanations, summarize relevant documentation section, provide code snippets. Always provide real links to real pages of sections. That's definitely helpful. I don't know if our llms.txt file for developer docs supports this just yet, but hopefully uh, the AI can try that. Retrieve page content, yes. The CMS. Sounds reasonable. Um, so we'll reuse this prompt. Maybe I'll copy it to the separate file, dev support. And so in our prompt foo config, we'll use dev support. Same models. So Baptiste, I don't remember if you were around when we discussed this, but the point of this software is makes it super simple to compare the results of as many models as we'd wish. And so one of our big design goals here is to make it work with smaller ones that are more energy efficient and where we control the hosting. So this provider here chose them because the data center is based in region with low carbon footprint. But
Is
we're
it in
doing.
France?
It is in France. It is in Paris.
Oh, Paris. Ugh.
They're in Paris and they're in Krakow in Poland, I think.
The location of the next EuroPython.
Yes. Are you going?
Maybe.
Ooh, let's do a EuroPython plug. Uh, oh, there is 23.6 website, right? There is. Krakow.
Oh, there's a familiar face.
This familiar face?
Yep,
Scroll up, scroll up. Yeah, who's that?
first one.
Okay, moving on. So we have our full file, we have our instructions, and now we have which AI models we want. And so, yeah, my point was we have our open source low footprint providers. And at the bottom, we have Cloud Opus 4.5, which is the heavyweights of the heavyweights, the ones that's been trained on all of the pirated Django and Wagtail books out there. So this one has no excuse not to provide a perfect.
Allegedly.
No, not allegedly. They've been fined for that.
No, I think they were fined for having trained on books. I think there's still an ongoing suit for whether the books were pirated or not.
As far as I know, they have been fined for training on pirated for pirating books. They have not been fined for training on books. But as far as I know, the books that have been pirated, people got a $1,500 payout per author. As
Okay.
far as I know, it's been settled.
I thought there was an ongoing suit that was still about whether those books were
Hmm,
pirated.
maybe.
So the source material was pirated regardless of whether they had the legal standing to actually use books for training. Anyhow, let's burn those tokens.
How do you want to test that the answer is correct, Baptiste?
I was going to ask you, probably you've already explained this, but I was curious how you had some green and some red in your previous spreadsheet.
Yep.
And was that manual? Was that another LLM uh, evaluating the correctness of the answer?
Yeah, let's look at the actual docs together, and I can explain a bit more. So we're using this software called Promptfoo, which provide evaluations, which is the feature we're using right now. This is very broken inside Cursor. Maybe I'm asking too much of my IDE displaying pages, so I'll switch the screen sharing quickly to separate browser. So what we're looking for is what they call assertions and metrics. I think so far I've only used assertions, not metrics, which is pass-fail scenarios. And within this, you will see two types: deterministic metrics, which is your usual regex, contains, Levenstein distance, and so on, and model graded, which is the kind where you ask another AI model to compare kind of your expectation of an answer with the actual answer for another AI. So TLDR both. I think there's value in both types of validation. I do prefer to create deterministic ones if I can formulate tests that you can test deterministically, basically. Just to be clear, like I'm a beginner at this, so this is my understanding based on having using this for a few weeks here and there, not like a lot of work. So yeah, for now we're using this top one LM rubric, where I think Promptfoo uses its own like kind of system prompt to tell another LLM how to compare things, plus our own little like extra instructions from our expectation of the results. Does that make some sense?
Your explanation makes sense. Yeah, I I'm always kind of, I don't fully understand why feeding an LLM output to another LLM, like, it's kind of this Ouroboros of the snake eating its own tail of like, how does that work? Like if the LLM could judge its own output in the first place, uh, like why couldn't it just output it at that point instead of doing another round? But I'm
Yeah,
not a data scientist, so
yeah, it's all about context management and training of the models. Um, the models we pick here, they are pretty general purpose models that can answer anything and everything and are trained to do that. And their instructions are also going to be like specific to answering the question we're after. And then I guess you want a separate model that's been instructed or trained to compare the correctness of questions, the answers. So, for example, if you wanted to make your coding AI work with a very small model, you want a model that's very well optimized to do that. But when you want to assess the correctness of the results, it makes sense to have a model that's been fine tuned for that scenario. So that makes more sense. That's how I understand it anyway. But definitely a bit of Ouroboros going on right there. So how do I add a custom column in a chooser? That was your question?
yes, I can work with that.
Okay. In do you want to say what the column should be doing?
So, well, mine wasn't a page chooser, but I'm still curious because that's the most common chooser anyway.
Okay. Sage, what's the correct answer?
Are we talking about page choosers or like custom model choosers?
I was talking about custom model choosers, but I don't believe that this is documented in any way.
I think we do have customizations for, we do have documentation for custom, making custom choosers. I'm not sure if it goes in depth into like how to configure the columns, but yeah, you might have to look at the source code to see how the views are built. But we do have some mentions of building custom choosers.
Ooh, errors. We are most likely going over our token limit. Prompt is too long. Yeah, we're gonna have to limit the size of our full llms.txt, folks. Maybe we can remove the release notes again. So there's one catch here, which is that this full file that we have currently isn't that well ordered. So I'm going to have to hunt around and make sure that we only remove the right section. So we can probably preserve our index. Let's check our token count first, shall we? Yeah, that's too many tokens. It's never going to be able to fit that into anything. So
Can you delete every second word?
every what? Sorry.
Every second word?
how would you do that with your IDE? Is there like a secret trick?
Yeah, sure. Just ask Cursor to delete every single word.
Hey cursor, please I wonder how it would do it. Okay.
There's probably a Perl one-liner that does that.
Yeah, there's a Perl one-liner for everything, isn't there? Okay, I think that's gonna save us from about half the file. Not quite. Which other parts of the docs can we delete?
Contributing guides.
Yeah, that's one of my big concerns with AI is it only answers based on your current problem at a given point in time. I feel like there is a risk that people will lose any incentives to contribute to our code to fix their issues if they're just looking at the AI. But for now, it does feel more important to make our docs more accessible, I suppose. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through this to understand exactly where our contributing guides and
Can't you tell your system prompt that if the user is encountering a bug, they should be nudged to report it?
yeah, yeah. So that's what we were discussing with Sage earlier. If we look at our user guide in the copy page feature here at the top, I have copy prompts, which is attempting to encourage our users to use a ready-made prompt for the docs. And in here, we could definitely write if information is missing, encourage users to report this. But you know, it's not a given that people will think of using this ready-made prompt. And it's also not a given how AI follows instructions like this. But worth a try for sure. Where are we at on token counts? It's gonna fail, I assume, with most models still, but yeah, there's just no way, boys. Let's try with the index file only. So the index file is much smaller because it only contains the headings of the pages, and then the idea is that the AI will fetch whichever pages it's after. We can see what happens there. Do you think it's something we should maintain in the long run, those kinds of automated checks of our documentation for common questions?
I think it's gonna take a lot of resources to keep it up to date and just to maintain it. I'm not sure, like having to maintain yet another thing when we can use the time to invest on the docs directly. But maybe if we could find a way to make it so that we don't have to spend so much time maintaining the tests, maybe it's worth it.
Yeah. I think my goal here was that hopefully almost all of the types of questions we'd have in those files, you could use the same assertions for them. So that really all you'd have to define is the questions, like one question per line, and then that's your test case. You don't have to say like, oh, for this you have to look for this word, for that this word. Um, whether that's realistic though, I don't know for sure. But that's how I arrived at those default assertions here. One, should provide a step-by-step guide. Two, should reference the docs. Three, should avoid referencing things that are known to be incorrect. Okay, so we have our prompts with our smaller file, and we can see what happens with that. I think for a real world scenario, the way that you're meant to have this set up is the AI will fetch your llms.txt file from your side and decide which pages to fetch after. Or you'd have an MCP server that provides a tool that's called like fetch docs. And then based on that, the AI would know which documentation pages to load into its context to answer your question. We are not there just yet. Okay, so we have the recap. Can take a look at this quickly for a change. So we spent 13,000 tokens, 10,000 for the actual tasks we gave the AI, and then 4,000 for the LLM grading. So the Ouroboros of the LLM checking, is the LLM saying the truth or no? Let's see the results. Triple fail. I think I might switch to a bigger browser window for us to look at this. Okay. So Mistral small model chooser panel. See, at a glance, this all looks decent to me, but I definitely don't know enough our code to check how much bullshit there is in here. Sage, what's your bullshit meter telling you?
I don't think we have model chooser panel.
No, that does not exist.
But there's a documentation reference. See, it's there somewhere.
So confidently adding the anchor to the link.
Yeah. I love that. See that I'm hoping here that something like this, we could probably output our whole list of API signatures in a format that's quite small, and it would help us if we wanted to make smaller models support this. It will help us know for sure whether they are like using imports of real APIs or no. There's a project like this from, is it the Fast API people? The Zensical people? MK strings? Does that ring a bell?
I know that you do use Sphinx for the Wagtail documentation.
Yep.
Because Sphinx can generate this thing called the inventory file, which is what powers the intersphinx feature where you can cross-link documentation. And that's a giant blob of all the references that your documentation has.
Do you know like the URL pattern for the inventory file? Oh, is it a binary blob?
It is somewhat binary. It's a very strange format.
It's exactly what
Uh,
we should be trying to do, I think, if it felt worth the time.
There are tools that convert it to YAML or JSON. I have used it.
I think things might generate it in multiple formats as well, maybe. Don't fully remember. I know I broke it once for Django.
That will
'Cause,
definitely be more helpful in a scenario like this. How did you break it?
I misconfigured the server to serve the file and create the infinite redirection loop.
Classic.
Yeah.
This is what I was thinking of. It's called Griff, and I think it's meant so that you can diff your Python code's API signature over time. When I say API, like I don't mean a REST API. I mean like the modules and methods and so on. Um, yeah. Anyway, maybe we'll look at this at some point. ChatGPT OSS model chooser view sets. That's something that's real. Okay. For some reason, it's showing its thinking, but not its actual answer at the end. So we'll ignore that and assume that it's a fail on my part to not know how to configure my prompt foo correctly. Cloud Opus. Maybe there's some prompting in my setup still encouraging it to use the user guide. Is it as simple as that?
I don't think choosers support that yet, but it is linking to the best page we have for it, I guess. It might have mixed it up with because we put the model view set documentation on the same page. So this is what you're seeing here is for the listing view. So maybe it assumes that the chooser view set uses the same mechanism.
Why do we put them on the same page?
They're both um, for setting up generic views. I guess we should probably separate them. Maybe I don't know.
What's your ideal documentation page length?
Oh, I think it really depends on what type of page it is. If it's a reference documentation, I don't mind it being really long as long as the uh, table of contents thing on the right side um, lets you scroll through the headings.
Baptiste, any take?
I think, yeah, Sage is correct. There's very different or very different scenarios when you have reference or non-reference. I believe there's like, what was it? 4 types of documentation. There's something with a quadrant. I don't, not a documentation writer. Yeah, that's the one. For reference, like I never read it from top to bottom, right? Like you just usually arrive there via search. You already know what you're looking for, and then you just look at what you came to find. So in that sense, the length doesn't really matter. I think the length is probably way more critical in a tutorial scenario or how to guide where you tend to read it sequentially from top to bottom.
Yeah.
And there's probably science in like ideal length for page and stuff like that.
I do find though, even for reference, there is it's heavily dependent on your search functionality being able to link to the correct subsection. I feel like search indexing of docs generally finds it a bit easier if it can link to top level pages. but like if we search for list display, presumably it's good enough to link us to the correct method. Yeah, that's a good example of it working well. Yeah, so definitely something that the AI still misunderstands, that there can be different things on the same page of docs that supports different APIs. Though I assume, Sage, if we were to support this, that's kind of a good guess at what it would look like.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So I think, to me, I definitely hope we'll make use of those new tools to help us refine the docs one way or the other. I don't know if it's like better to focus on ways to get more accurate answers always, if it's better to focus on reducing hallucinations one way or the other. But I do feel like we have to invest in our docs, and it's pretty solid way to automate the process of seeing how people find information. Obviously, it would be great to be able to do this without relying on AI as well, but that would rely on lots of analytics. And I'm not the biggest fan either of tracking every single click of people going through our documentation pages. And user testing of documentation, like we just don't have capacity for that. Maybe we should. Maybe we should spend time with like a couple Wagtail devs and see how they navigate through the docs. So yeah, I think that's llms.txt, and that's evals, and that's the current state of where we're at. And I guess for us, as far as our own files, there's definitely plenty of refinements to be had to make them more helpful. There's definitely clear trade-offs with our audience looking at our sites much less and at AI answers much more. But I'm feeling hopeful that, again, those files would encourage the use of smaller models that you have more control over, rather than just trusting the big models to crawl through your sites. I'm gonna plug my call for feedback. I could really use more feedback on this. If Sage, Baptiste, you spend more time with those files, please tell me what you find. And yeah, I'm hoping we'll create some of those like opinionated, abridged versions of the files that try to strike a balance between having too much and too little content. Do you see yourself using this, or not just yet?
I mean, I don't really have a need to look through Wagtail's docs myself to ask it questions about Wagtail, but I can see other people using it. So, yeah. Maybe if we have more uh, documentation of our internals, that would be useful for me as someone who work on Wagtail itself.
What about you, Baptiste?
I don't really have a well integrated process for using LLM in my day to day. So I don't think I'd use. And I also I'm way more at ease with just like gripping through a code base. That's kind of my first go to when if I don't see the answer in the docs, I'll just open the code base, and I think I'm quicker with the Git grep than an LLM, but I think that's not where the industry is going. The trend is definitely for people to use LLM for answering questions about documentation or code base. So having tools for maintainers to, kind of, as you said, test or evaluate how LLMs performed on your code base or documentation. It's very interesting, for sure.
Do you think, obviously, like it takes some time to load a project locally and get your grep in the right folder? Do you think you would like download those files for projects so you have like offline records of the docs that are very greppable? Because you could grab this, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, grepping is more like I know what I'm looking for,
Yeah.
like where is the class used or a function or
Yeah, and you want to filter like is it a Python file, is it HTML I'm looking for? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think I'm old and I'm set in my ways, which is not always the most positive of attributes. Um, and I think documentation is the the way I imagine things. Like it's obviously a big piece of text, and LLMs are kind of they're born out of this. It's a large language model. Documentation is a big piece of language. Uh, it could make sense that it would be good at finding things there. So I find it hard to. I think that's more of a function of my own brain of like formulating a question. I think through experience or I don't know if it's innate, but I think I'm much better at formulating a grep command than a human language question of like how do I find it's probably also something you can train yourself, but I I get the ick interacting with a large language model that is made to. I think most of them, at least the ones I've used, are deliberately programmed to act like humans. Uh, on my less generous days, I think they're designed this way to trick you in a nefarious way. Uh, might not be the case, but then when they're made to behave like humans, and then they give you a completely psychopathic answer of like giving you a link to a non-existing page. I find it's like for me this clash. It's like I get almost physical pain out of it. So grep, as limited as it is, it will never lie to me. It is reproducible. I can give someone else the grep command I used, and they will find exactly the same things. And the non-deterministic way and the kind of the sloppy hallucinatory component of LLMs for me are really hard to deal with, kind of emotionally. So I don't reach for those tools very often.
Yeah, the last thing we need is being gaslit by computers.
You're holding it wrong. There surely is a list display attributes on the custom chooser panel class. Here
Or it
is
would
the
never
link to
tell
the
you that
docs.
it will never tell you you're wrong, because if you then go and say this doesn't exist, you say, oh, you're completely right. And this, if a person was doing this, I think this is medically like I mean, it's not a behavior that a real person would have, or I think they would be shunned in a society if they were to behave this way. And so the aspect of like they made them look like humans. They made it pretends to be a chat between you and something else, and then they give them human names, and they tweak them so that they they look like the human is on the other end writing you, but at the same time they give you these completely like scary answers. Like, I don't know. It's a very strange tool for me to use. I wish it was more deterministic, and I feel like it's the eternal debate. I'm really curious about the how it's going to look like for people building up skills. I I mean, as I mentioned, I'm old. I'm set in my ways, and I feel I've learned through walking uphill in the rain for 20 years, and I don't know how it's going to look like 10 years from now. How with a generation that is grown on asking LLMs for how to solve things? Will they have learned better, worse? What task will they be better at? Like, is there some, you know, what can I pick up that is going to be useful for me? Interesting times.
Interesting times indeed. I think as far as Wagtail, we're not pretending that anyone and everyone should go ahead and adopt those things right now. Just trying to find, I guess, spend enough time in this space to find the good from the bad and hopefully get the good to emerge more. At least I'm really happy, to have spent time with those eval suits, not just created those files and moved on, but actually testing how much is the quality improved with or without the files. And it certainly doesn't beat careful greping, I don't think, just yet. But for people who expect more immediate access to information than greping, it does feel like a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think they might be good compliments because for grepping, you need to know what you're looking for, right? Like this is the eternal thing of like, you don't know what you don't know. And so I could see the randomness aspect of or the non-deterministic aspect of an LLM. Maybe it could somehow, if you're prompting for something slightly wrong, because if you're going to grep for something that doesn't exist, you will find nothing. But an LLM might just be like, oh, the word that you look for is similar to this, and then it might actually re put you on the right track.
Yeah. See what the next few years bring. It's definitely a different environment for people learning at this point in time. Oh, do you want to see the proprietary version of this setup? I don't think I've shared yet, but like this was the open source version, looking at prompt foo, setting our own prompts our way. I also set up the Gemini Gems version. Do you want to see that?
Yeah, we can see it quickly, maybe.
Let's do it quick. Do you know what Gemini Gems are?
No,
I've heard of it, but I haven't used it again. So,
I
yeah,
can't
but
tell if it's a great name or a horrible name.
Um, I really like your point about how cringe it is when LLMs are named with human names. So at least I don't know anyone named Gemini nor Gem.
But Gem is a very short, like common shortening of Gemma.
Oh, yes, but it's Gem with a G here. Um, like a ruby or a sapphire or a
Yeah,
gemstone.
you can write Gemma with a G as well.
Really? No,
I
but
believe so.
do you shorten? Okay, maybe I just don't know. I starting to dislike it if that's why it's named Gem. Um, yeah, I set up two, and again it's the same concept. We have our AI model, Gemini. We give it access to our docs, and we give it a prompt saying how to we want you to answer this or that question. So Wagtail user guide, that's a custom gem that I set up, and this is what it says. Oh, the site has been configured by your developers. Yeah. You cannot manually add or hide columns. Filters, search, density settings. Yeah. So Sage, your question has been answered. It seems reasonable and hallucination free. Baptiste, what about your question? Developer docs custom gem. How do I add a custom column? You should use the model view set or choose your view set and customize the list display attribute. Dun dun dun. So yeah, I think that's
I think
interesting.
it's interesting that it's probably what Sage identified, the fact that the chooser view set and the model view set appear on the same page seems to make the confusion that they kind of work the same. So could be an argument for splitting them into separate pages.
Oh, for supporting this.
Yeah, because that's what I tried. Because you like, if you have worked with view sets, you know that you could put the list display and it's going to work. And so that's what I tried for the chooser view sets, and it didn't work.
Do you open an issue?
For this, I don't think so.
I love how you say for this. I'm gonna have a peek after this call at Baptiste's list of
No,
feature requests.
I haven't really opened so many issues. I do think I did merge, or I did contribute something that came out of this project about it was about snippets and signals. No, what are they called? Hooks. There it is.
The settings hooks?
Yeah, I think so. It came out of that project.
Great.
But I did talk to Sage about this. Like, there's obviously a historical, as with many things. There's like the fact that choosers use view sets is a somewhat recent development, and so I think if it was made today, obviously it would work this way. And the fact that the LLM is hallucinating it isn't completely, unrealistic. But
Yeah, yeah. It's always interesting to compare of what a human to what a human would assume without them having done careful reading of the docs. Um, anyway, I think we're gonna leave it there. Do you wanna give us an outro as well, Sage, or are you more of an intro kazoo player?
I think it's just intro for today.
Just
I'll have
intro for
to
today.
think what the outro might be.
Baptiste don't wanna set expectations too high, but Sage did say he would bring a different instrument to every one of those streams for the intro.
Well, I can say for the next one. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do that for every single stream.
We have it recorded.
Oh
On that note,
no.
recorder is an instrument.
Ah, that's a good point.
have a good rest of the day. And yeah, give me the llms.txt feedback